Welcome to another edition of the Get Made podcast. I got a real interesting conversation I'm going to have with two great guests. One of them you've seen before many times. She's my residential therapist that comes in. Everybody's favorite therapist. It's Renee, Miss Michelle Renee Davis. And I got a co-partner and cohort in crime, you want to call that, or in counseling, Miss Kendra Kamilah Shabazz, licensed LPC, and we're going to get into this conversation because I'm not going to waste any time because this is going to be what's up. So we're going to talk about love and potential and what love and potential looks like from the woman's point of view and how is a man supposed to really kind of take that in and what's his role in that. Right. So I just added a twist to him. So I told him I was going to have an interesting conversation for him today. So I just added an extra little twist in that for him. So without further ado, introduce yourself, please, sisters.
So I'm Michelle Renee Davis. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Pennsylvania and in Delaware.
All right. Now you know you more than that, right? Because you still everybody's favorite therapist. So you ain't said it. So we're gonna let that work. We're gonna let that roll for right now. All right. So sis, yourself.
Mashallah, I am Kendra. I am actually a licensed marriage and family therapist. Not a LPC, but
Oh.
mashallah.
All right. And you are in the state of
New Jersey for now.
all right for now. Okay. So it looks like we're on the move a little bit. Hint, 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 hint. And so, so I know I've asked this question to Michelle before, but Kendra, you new to the show. So I got to ask you this. You can't get away from this question. This the Get Made podcast questions. We have three. Then we're going to walk into this. We're going to walk into this conversation between the three of us. All right. You ready?
Let's do it.
So what's up? So give me a book that you read by particularly maybe a black man, but a book that has inspired you.
Ooh, a black man. Nothing comes to my mind. That I read by a black man. I'm sorry, I would have to reflect.
Okay. Then give me a book that has inspired you. Outside of the Quran.
A book that has inspired me. Outside of the Quran, because that would have been my go-to.
I know that's you Muslim. You better be your go-to.
Subhanallah. I have to go back. I haven't done any major reading in the last few years.
Okay.
So I read a book by John Gottman. He's not a black man, but he's a
right.
man.
I know John Gottman real well. Gottman
Yeah.
Institute out on the West Coast. Right.
Yes. Yeah. So I aspire to be trained in the Gottman method. I have a huge passion for couples, relationships, marriages, families in general.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I know the work that we've been able to do in the past with Naila and I. That's what we kind of follow a lot of Gottman stuff.
Right. Yes, which would make a lot of sense. Yeah, because they have that same style, the husband and the wife.
Right.
Yes, so I use a lot of his methodologies because it does align with Islamic faith when you really get into it. So I use a lot of that when I'm talking to clients and they bring up some marital issues, because I don't really have any couples right now, but they'll bring it up and my go-to is Gottman. And even for myself, it just gave me a lot of insight to the roles that we play in relationships and how our culture kind of breaks down marriages because we might have this almost prideful way of looking at things. So one of my favorite methods one of my favorite strategies that he discusses is the lean into. So leaning into your spouse and your partner and even friendships. So yeah, that would be the book that inspired me.
All
I
right,
forgot
that's
the
what's up.
exact name of the book.
Well,
Sorry.
I know, but but I know the method though, so I know the teachings in that. So that's pretty. That's actually pretty nice practice that he have in that, right? So um, next, what black male that you know personally has been inspirational for you?
My father.
Okay.
My father has been an inspiration for me. My
Mm-hmm.
father did 15 years in prison.
Mm-hmm.
So he was missing a large chunk of my life. And
Mm-hmm.
to watch him get out, or not even just get out, even inside of prison, I can't tell you anything negative my dad ever spoke about while he was locked away. Everything was always, counting down until a law permits for him to come on the outside. He did a lot of work Islamically. Like he really focused on his deen, and then when he came out of from behind those bars or those doors, he was literally a changed man. A lot of people don't really reform, but he did. He's not the same person at all. And he just really inspires me day to day. He's so soft with me and kind. He really sets the bar high in treatment because he's so soft with me. He's so kind with me. If we have headbutts, he really teaches me about myself, teaches me about humility because I didn't have that dad there. I had to relearn how to be a daughter. I had to relearn, and he's been really patient with me in that regard.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. It's a lot of people don't. They give some type of some sort of crazy connotations to brothers who get out, and there may be some sternness because brothers been gone for a minute, so they have to readjust. But sometimes when brothers are actually trying to dean on the inside, sometimes a lot of them really do get out and we really try to practice when they get out. And I'm not saying they're perfect, right? But they really try to be better citizens and better Muslims, because a Muslim's going to allow you to be a better citizen, right? They
That's
try to be a better citizen once they get out. And so, congratulations and alhamdulillah for your father,
Right.
and may Allah continue to bless him. I mean,
Yeah.
lastly, and then we're going to jump over to this conversation. The state of black manhood when it comes to the understanding of love and potential through the eyesight of a woman. And this is where you both get to jump in at.
So when her and I was brainstorming about it, we were talking about how our Western culture tells us that we should fall in love and have like this happily ever after, um and it doesn't necessarily, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not obviously like, you know we love one another, we love for the sake of Allah. Allah is the one who put loves in our heart for our partner and our spouse, but making that your number one thing in a marriage could be detrimental to you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. It could be detrimental to the marriage because sometimes we'll start overlooking some things that shouldn't be overlooked. Um, One, sometimes we don't even like each other, like one another, but we love them, and that could potentially make a toxic relationship. Um,
How
because
does that work, Michelle? How does that work? Yeah, I can love you, but I don't like you. How does that work?
um, honestly, I think it's a mismatch because I think what we really love is the toxicity and the maladaptive nature of our partner. That's what we
Mm-hmm.
really love. Because we don't even like them. There's not don't have nothing in common, anything, but we love, like, so let's just say I'm codependent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then I find someone else is codependent. Oh, I love them because they don't have so much pride and they can ask for help. But really, I start to resent it because really they're dependent. Really, I'm codependent. I say I love them, but I don't like them because they're actually dependent.
Mm-hmm. Is this the trauma bonding situation or is that different?
So trauma bonding is a little bit different in a sense, because trauma bonding can happen with friendships too. It doesn't
Right.
necessarily always have to be, your
Right.
friends.
Oh, right. Mhm.
Bond over a event a lot of times. Not saying that it can't happen where y'all start having conversations about past events that y'all both share, and then now y'all love each other, and then you create a trauma bond. But in this instance, if and she can correct me if I'm wrong, my our thought pattern was more of um you loving them, don't really like them, because what you did was you were seeking to repair your own wounds that you have.
Hmm. Kendra, jump in on that one. Kendra, give me your understanding about this love but don't like.
Well, let's be clear. In Islam, we try to do it like we try to do it what some people will look at as backwards, right? We don't start with love. Love is not the first thing that we're approaching. We might grow to love, whereas when you see in the Western culture, it's the opposite. It's like they're
Right.
growing to love, and then so it's almost like the person is beautified, because anything I love is beautified. It looks good no matter what's going wrong. So then when I attach myself to it and I realize I don't really like this thing, I do truly love it. It's something I value. When you love something, you value it. But now certain things might happen that hurt the friendship, because that's what's gonna, when we look at like, that's a friendship. If I like you, you're a friend to me. And so something that me and Michelle talked about was love does not keep a relationship together,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
But like does. So you can fall out of love with someone and stay with them because you actually like them. Love is not what keeps it together, but like does.
Hmm.
So that's kind of how we, got into that topic of.
I it's interesting you guys are saying this, and I'm gonna dive into something a little bit more with that in a second. And again, the idea for here me is to ask questions for people who are knowledgeable about an area,
Mhm.
so we can get this information, especially for men, right? Because a lot of times we walk into a situation not quite understanding the assignment, right? And we get pulled into those rabbit holes too of, as you say, I got to love her, or she needs to love me before, she don't show no love toward me, or all this old type of stuff here, right? So we get romanticized too, even though we may not do the so-called romantic things. That makes sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So when Allah talks about in his book, and of course, I want people who are non-Muslim who are understanding this. I want you to follow along with me because this is real talk here. And I need you to understand the context in which we're talking about. When he talks about in his book that, he created men and women, right? From his signs that he created a man and a woman, that they may dwell in tranquility with one another, right? And then he placed the mercy and the love, the muwatta and the rahma, the love and the mercy, the muwatta and the rahma, right? Which I asked a student once, give me an understanding, because somebody was actually talking about that. And he said, really, those two states right there are conditions, right? The muwatta and the rahma, the mercy and the love are really conditions, right? And I thought that was the wildest thing, okay, that means I'm living with you first before I even get to that part right there, right? So now I'm hearing you say, the both of you saying, like. So then I should be able to like you first. And this is dwelling in the tranquility before I even get to the conditions of mercy and love with one another with you. Am I hearing that correctly?
So I would say it would make it easier, but of course, like we're Muslim, so once again, the way that we approach things, I instantly like a Muslim, right? It's stuff
Mm.
you would have to do to take that, like to chip at that. So my first inclination is to like you instantly. I instantly like all Muslims right off bat, right?
Mm.
As long as I don't see you doing something that's just,
Out of pocket.
Yeah.
Right.
But so my first go-to is I like you. And I would hope that that's kind of how spouses approach, the situations that I like you. You're my sister in Islam. I like you. You're my brother in Islam. And then as we get to know each other, so you're going to automatically give the mercy. It's going to be tranquil. It's what comes after that chips away.
Okay. I don't know. This is a very interesting subject here because it's a touchy one. Because you're right, we do it backwards. We're looking for love. We complicate it, right? Some of us even complicate it by. And again, we're gonna talk in real spaces. All right, we're not gonna really keep it at a plane that is euphoric or utopic, right? We're gonna deal in real spaces. All right. We have people who really move in spaces and times where they're seeking love and they're doing things that then allows them to what they feel like attract this particular love, and that's not really love at all, in my opinion, right? That's a satisfaction or a gratification of a gratifying situation. I need to be stimulated, physically stimulated, that then allows me to be internally stimulated. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And so, and you're right, we do it backwards. We don't get, and some people say we got to get to know the person and all those type of stuff here. As Muslims, we kind of don't, we got to give you the benefit of the doubt walking in the door. Right. How then do we mess up in that? Tell us what we mess up in that. From your professional point of view, how do we mess up in that?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say to one, I think it was something that Shadi has said. A lot of times when we go into it, when it starts to break down, is because we lack sincerity.
It's funny. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say what Shadi said.
And when I
explain that. I mean, because I know he explained, but he's not here right now. So let's explain that.
So what I got from it was that, and when I thought about all kinds of relationships that I had where they were breaking down, was because we lack sincerity. Sometimes it's towards each other. It's not necessarily always meaning that it's malicious, but sometimes we have some relationships where it's like we there because we benefited, and then when we don't benefit anymore, it starts to break down. Or we there because they're telling us all the things that we want to hear, and when they're not doing that anymore, it's breaking down. When you get into a marriage, I realize that he has money and then he lose it all, is breaking down. And or he not giving me everything that I thought I could get from him, so now it's breaking down. And some are very intentional and some are just deep-seated things that people just have not reflected upon and really did a deep dive within themselves about, well, why am I interested in this person? Why am I marrying this person? Why am I doing this? Or why, some people literally just live life. And as a therapist, sometimes I've asked people like, why did you do that? They were like, because that's just who I am. But why? Like, why are you like that? Why did you do this? Like, in that way, what was your thought process? And some people really don't do that. And then when they start, they were like, I'm like, well, do you want to continue to do this based off these wounds or habits or whatever it is that develop because of this? And it really just be boiling down to insincerity. And we have an issue with that. I say that for myself too. Like, we have an issue sometimes with sincerity, because then when something happens, conflict happens, then it's like we start doing things that we wouldn't normally do to that person because there was a conflict.
Is that a means of self-preservation, or what is that? At that point, are we just looking out for self, or what is that?
I think everybody's situation different. I would have to
Okay.
know what's happening for that person. Because some things could be self-preservation, and some people it could just really just be ignorance. Like they just really just ignorant of what they do, who they are, why they're doing things. Um, I mean, it's still a form of self-preservation, but not in the sense that again, like some things, because intentions are important.
Right. I'm gonna say that some of that sounds like intentions and a matter of intention. Then,
You know, so it's just really.
Kendra, Kendra.
Yes. So just piggybacking off that, and it's funny, I was just having a conversation with my dad. I brought up what Shadid said, same thing. And me and Michelle, we go back and forth over this thing that he said, because when he said it, both of our mouths dropped. Like, oh my God. Like, I started filtering all of my relationships just like Michelle did. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, and when you really think about it, you can't really pinpoint what is it that just didn't work. It wasn't sincere. It wasn't you almost want to say real, right? So even though the intention might have been, I want to be with you, you want to be with me, but what was happening in your mind while we were together? What were the conversations I didn't hear? What were you doing behind my back? That all goes into sincerity,
Ooh,
right? And
wow.
so even how Michelle said, even for myself, it's times I could be looking at you like, I don't like you. But I'm not saying that. I'm like, oh, mashallah. But inside, I don't like you. So it's gonna break down eventually. Something's gonna happen. Some reaction is gonna happen. It's gonna break the relationship down.
Do you believe that? I mean, do you believe that there's not really, they're not really showing signs earlier before it really get to that point that they're showing that they really don't like you?
I think they're there. Yeah, I think
So
that the signs are there.
Okay. Yeah, and it's like kind of early on at some point if okay after you didn't have the feel good moments, she done said everything you wanted to hear, he done said everything you wanted to hear, and it kind of wore down. Now you looking like, dang, how I get with this cat? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? How I get this woman? You know what I mean? And and it's like now you in it, and you don't want to do anything there, but you kind of secretly having some resentment going on there,
yeah.
right? And then do you believe they show signs of that before it really just fall over the cliff?
I do. I do. I think that there are signs, but once again, we beautify things. Um, we just want to see the best for our own gratification. Something you're going to look and see is something you're getting out of it. And that's the reason you are overlooking those signs. So if I love compliments and this guy is showering me with all these compliments, and then one day he yells at me or something, I'm going to overlook that one time you yelled at me because I know I'm going to get some more compliments, right? And then when the relationship starts going on and then all he's doing is yelling,
And no more compliments.
there's no more compliments. Well, the sign was there. He showed you at one point who he could be, but then we go back to the potential,
Yeah, I
right?
want to say now we at the potential now.
Well, he has the potential to give me compliments because I see him doing it, so I'm gonna ignore the red flag.
Wow. So is the potential is not something that, because potential is something that's static, right? It's just there, right? And so if we're then talking about potential and he shows or well, in this instance, again, I want to make sure I plate this right. You two are actually talking to men on how to make sure that they do this thing right from a woman's perspective. All right. This is the Get Made podcast. Kendra, I don't know. MADE is an acronym for manhood, accountability, development, enrichment. Right. And so we're here to see, because as men, we need to learn how to get this right. And if a woman then is looking at something based upon potential and she's falling into this, how do we then protect them and ourselves from falling into that trap?
One of the things that I think, and this is just a personal person, is that potential needs to be aligned with action, right?
Okay.
I have, and I use this as an example, I have the potential to go back and get my doctorate degree. I have the potential. I can graduate straight A's. I have the potential. But am I going to do it? No,
Mm.
I'm not going to do it. And I actually learned that from somebody. They said, women fall in love with potential, but what's the probability of them doing it? And I said, you know what? You are right. Like, because that's the problem. We have potential, like, and a lot of people have the potential to do a lot of things. They can go, like, become senate, state, whatever it is.
Right.
But what's the probability that they're going to do it? And if
But
you,
but Michelle, I hear a lot of women get told to look at a man's potential
yeah,
versus where he is right now and what his capabilities of being in future or whatever, which nobody knows the future. We all know we believe in the unseen, right? We don't know what that is. Only Allah has that, right? And so then how, if a woman is then told to look at a man's potential,
hmm
then what is she to do if, I mean, if he's just doing an action but it never materialized? What is she supposed to do in that?
okay, so I want to say two things. One is the first part, which was potential need to be accompanied by action.
Okay.
Like you could, I've met people where they smart as a whip,
Mm-hmm.
dropped out of high school. Then
Mm-hmm.
they not doing nothing. They're not interested. But also too, we have to. I think as women, sometimes we do. People always talk about projecting, right? Oh, you project, and they always use it in a negative connotation.
Connotation. Mm-hmm.
However, sometimes people project their goodness onto people too, and they think they see potential in someone, and really it's them projecting themselves, their goodness onto the other person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, or we will shift to the parts that they are good at and not recognizing, like, no, this is where they are, and you're shifting your focus to parts that they are good at, but these other ones are really, really detrimental. So it's like a few things that's happening at the same time. Are you projecting your goodness onto them? Like you're like, oh, they smart, they can go to college. Oh, are you saying it because you went to college and you did it because you smart?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they really capable of it? Is it accompanied by action, the things that you saying that they have potential in? And so we have to put, it's like a combination of things that's always happening that we just have to really, that's why um really doing, what is it called, like a lot of open-ended questions about what's happening is important, which is
Mm-hmm.
different from overthinking, because overthinking, you just randomly bunging up a bunch of stuff together through the, like, and a lot of times it's irrelevant, but staying
Mm-hmm.
on task of, I see potential. Is it real? Am I projecting? I see potential. Is it accompanied by action? They're saying that they want to be a plumber, but they haven't even looked into any trade schools.
Right. Okay. Now you kind of, now you done brought it down to earth a little bit more for me, right? Because at that point, then they just talking. That's not even potential. That's
No,
just talking.
but women fall in love with their ears. You
Yeah,
could tell your whole
I do
mouth.
understand that. I do understand that. You know what I mean? And you know, so in that, then I mean, they got to hear something, right? So if of a man, I got to be in, because let me show you what a man's thought would be, right? And you can, and again, this is where you guys get to help us out a little bit more. My thought would show up as, well, she got to believe in me. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, but she has to believe in me. That's nothing but potential. That's what a man thinks. That's nothing but potential. How is that supposed to show up for a woman?
What I would advise, if I have a son, but my son is special needs. If I had a son that I knew, you're gonna get married one day, my advice would be, don't allow a woman to fall in love with your potential. If someone does not accept you for right where you are, how you are, if you didn't change a thing, then that's not, to me, my opinion, that's not the person for you. Because the best relationships are the ones who grow together. So, you know, it's more satisfying if the person accepted me right where I was. They didn't expect anything more from me. They're content with who I am, how I am, in total, like who I am. So if I'm doing more, that's like a bonus. If I decide to go back to school, if I decide to, if I do get more money, if I do take another career, that's like, oh, alhamdulillah, that's a blessing because I loved exactly who you were when I met you.
Alhamdulillah.
Wow.
I
I
love
tell you what, this is going to be new conversation for men. That right there, right? It's like you need to,
Don't settle, brothers.
huh?
Don't settle, brothers.
Hey, boy, I'll tell you, she just gave a settlement in there. I ain't gonna lie to you. She just gave a settlement in there. So, because it's like, accept me for who I am right now. If you can't accept me for who I am right now, then, but then what that's going to translate for some women is going to be like, he don't want to do anything else. When then, where does the aspect of growth come in with that?
Because keep in mind, it's not that he's not willing to do anything. So as women, we have to do, we, as Michelle said, you're going to see the action, right? So if a brother is out there working hard, I see he's a hard worker. That's the potential right there. But I'm okay if he decided to do what he's doing for the rest of his life
And
and
that's
be
all
a
he want to
hard
do. And that's all he
yeah,
want to do.
that's a hardworking man, and that's what attracted me. So don't worry so much about the people who are not attracted to what you do, right? Because who says that's not growing, right? If I'm working hard and
I'm
I'm
trying to
growing,
take care of my family the best I can, or I'm trying to do the best I can, and whatever. Then, or not even do the best I can. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do in that regard.
yes, yeah. Where does it come from? Where think about where this idea comes from that I have to do more. I got to do more and a little bit more. It's actually like a trauma response. And it lives a lot within the Black culture because we don't get all these inheritance and all these things that a lot of other cultures get. So we're like competing. We're in a competition. We got to get more. We got to have more. We got to have the nice cars. We got to have all these things. How many of us are actually content right where we are? And the thing that we're striving to do more of is worship Allah. That's what I'm striving to do more. That's the brother that has my eye. If you're striving to be closer to Allah, that's what matters, because who's going to do the increasing? Who's going to be the one to give you more?
Whew. Okay. I can tell you a lot, man. I can sit here and tell you 1,000 different things where somebody gonna say is gonna be wrong in that. But the beauty of it, you are right. That's the beauty of what you're saying. You are right. And what will happen is somebody might try to twist that. And that then goes back to the mindset of the person. No, I'm not saying you don't need to do what you're supposed to do to try to take care of us, take care of me emotionally, take care of me physically, take care of me, the whole wellness will, right? It's from spiritual, from intellectually, from mental, emotionally, from physical to socially. Take care of me in these ways, right? But then the grab, it's like I'm hearing you say the potential really be about how a person is supposed to go and grab, chase. I don't even chase. Say grab, chase a situation. This is what we really, in my opinion, this is what we really look at as potential. How you are willing to go chase after something.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So then if we are then chasing and I decide I don't want to do all that chasing, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Because you're not living up to the status quo. Because when I'm hearing you talk about potential, and this is where I think the love, and we get back to the depth of this conversation, and this is what I want to hear you two speak to if you don't mind. We get to this love and potential. The love is this fascination, or this infatuation. And its potential is the ability for you to just go out here and chase after something. And if those two things, if one thing start weaning down, again, you didn't give me the compliments, or you ain't, satisfying me this way, or you're not doing this, or you're not giving me gifts all the time, or you're not doing this, you're not doing that, and there is some struggle in this situation, then something wrong with you.
So transactional, right?
So then that's what we busting love and potential down to transactional relationships.
And I've heard people say that, like, marriage is a business.
Yeah.
Tell me the difference.
Well, my thing is, for us, when we get married, right? It's ibadah, right? That's first and foremost. That's not. There's no business in ibadah. Like,
You like make it make sense, because
no business in ibadah. I'm helping.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. That right. There's no business any better. Are you right? There is none. Not a drop of it.
that's a good quote. I'm gonna post that.
I know. We are gonna have to share that one. We have to share that one. That might be the business venture there. No business any better.
Put that on a shirt, sis.
Yeah, like it's none. Like, when we get married, and obviously we have reasons that we get married, and you should marry the one for her religion, right? And we're completing half of your deen. And in that, when we're completing, I mean, because when you really look at, like, when you think about, like, that whole concept of, like, us mirroring each other and things like that, it is meant for us to grow closer to Allah. That's it. Everything we're supposed to be doing is to grow closer to Allah. So if you're saying that your marriage is a business, like, subhanAllah, you really in the wrong business. Like,
you're in the wrong business.
like
marriage is a business. You're in the wrong business. Okay.
Because if you really, look at it and you see, like, I haven't seen anyone that says that. And maybe it's one person, because nothing is always said, my marriage is a business, and they're happy.
I agree.
There's peace in that marriage.
I agree.
And then there's no, and then what? And then
because when business go down, they have all type of friction.
Yeah. And it brings you back to what you said. You asked a student of knowledge about, Allah's rahmah being placed in love and mercy being placed in it. Well, you didn't meet the conditions. So you're not going to get the reward.
The rewards of that. He's not going to place it in. If you can't get the tranquility, and I said I was getting back to that conversation, you can't get to the tranquility, right, or the peace in a situation. If you can't live in peace, there's no way that's going to have the conditions for love and mercy is never going to be there. That makes sense? Does it make sense?
It does. It does.
And so then if we start then looking at love and potential, and this is what I'm trying to gather from, how we got off here and how we can actually get back. Because, I don't just want to give a whole hour worth of what, we talking about an issue and no time or really being able to discuss how we can do some things differently so we can get different results, right?
Yeah.
But if we're talking about love and potential, how do we get here and how do we get out of it? Especially within the Black community. Okay, I'm being real specific now. The Black community, and more probably specifically even more than that, drill into the Muslim community, because we have really begun to be plagued by this attitude now. Right? And I don't care what, methodology you running with at this time. I happen to be in a position of being able to work with Muslims from all who claim all type of methodologies, and they especially Black Muslims, and they all run into the same problem when it come down to it. It never cease to fail. If you Salafi, you Sufi, you I'm the Wardi Muhammad community, you this or you that, or you trying to find these immigrants or whatever it is, if you West African or whatever you're trying to follow, with us, we run right back into the same problem. how we get into these relationships, and how we keep coming out of these relationships based upon this love and potential. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So how we get here?
It's the culture. You know, we're so influenced by the things that we should stay away from anyway. You know, we're influenced by the music. We're influenced by the media. We want to be look like what we see on TV. Like Michelle was saying, like we want that fairy tale. We want to be dressed like this. We want to be with our husbands like this. We want to be in this car. We want this amount of money, because that will literally go back to sincerity, because it's not a sincere attempt to actually be married. It's like a come up. Like I want to have a come up.
Mm.
And that's not sincere.
Yeah.
Wow. Michelle, you going to add to that?
Yeah, I do want to add something to that. And also, too, I think that a lot of us, we become Muslim. And it just made me think about, I can't remember exactly what the verse in the Quran was, where it was a group of people who accepted Islam. And I think they would say that they were mu'min. He said, no, just say that you're a Muslim, that you have.
Right, that's Surah Al-Hujurat. This is Surah Al-Hujurat 49. And so when he told what Allah told the Prophet, tell him, no, you're not Muslim, you're Muslim. Right? And so, yeah, I get where you're coming from in that.
And a lot of us are just Muslim, meaning they're not doing any work to submit to Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, and so now, granted, everybody's on a journey. I'm not trying to say don't have no fault. You know, you become Muslim, you like, Papa, I'm doing all the sunnah prayers. I'm
on everything, right? I'm top of everything at this point.
Because you will burn yourself out. The religion is easy. However, what happens is, one, we don't surround ourselves with good companions, right? And companions that's going to tell us about ourselves and have us look at, or even if you don't have the courage to tell your companion about whatever it is that's going on, but inviting them into to spaces where they can learn it, you know, like something like we should be helping each other grow. Not saying we're not going to have any faults, because it's unrealistic, but we should always be in a space of helping each other grow, and helping ourselves grow to get closer to being mu'mins. And I'm not going to say that it's easy. And I'm talking to myself, I'm not going to say that it's easy, because sometimes, like, you know, desires and all kinds of stuff get mixed up in wish-wash ways and blah, 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 blah. But one thing that I have always guaranteed for myself is that I'm always going to reflect on it and figure out how I can do this better. Even if I'm mad about it. Because listen, I get mad about stuff. I'm like, dang, you know, but I am not going to put myself to be like the shaitan and be ignorant and arrogant. Try to act like I'm not doing something wrong and lying to myself. Even if that means that I'm still doing it to try to figure out how I'm going to fix it, but I'm never going to tell myself that what I'm doing is correct. And sometimes people do that. They start lying to themselves.
I say sometimes they gaslight themselves on a lot of issues.
Gaslight themselves into something. And it's like, no, don't do that to yourself. Don't cheat yourself out of worship, because even striving to leave all stuff, you know, by the mercy of Allah, that you would still get barakah for striving and trying and not sitting up here and just being complacent in whatever sin or transgression that you are doing. Try. Well, I'm gonna say try and do. Like,
right. I'm gonna say put the effort in. You know, I tell a lot of my clients this, you know, and I do some work back in the system again, you know, and one of the definitions of work that I give people is, you know, the exertion of physical or mental energies to accomplish or achieve a task, right? But after that work, before the exertion of physical mental energies, there's a definition that even goes with that, and that's called effort. You have to put the effort in. And what is effort? Then we're exerting physical and mental energies at that point, right? There has to be effort. And I really do believe that it's easy to fall in love and look at potential because there's no effort in that.
Sure enough, because think about the whole nature of falling, right?
You know what I mean?
Wait, can you say that again? Say that again? It's easy to fall in love because it takes no effort.
It takes no effort.
Oh,
It don't take no effort.
that I'm so triggered. Oh my god.
So it really don't. Like gravity is gonna bring you down.
Gravity's gonna bring you down. You know what I mean? It takes no effort to fall into anything, you know. And you know, most people think outside falling for you, you know, or fell for you, or you know, what they mean is that they, you know, they're giving themselves over to you, right? That's what they try to say.
Yeah.
Right. That's the idea they try to bring about. But really, though, don't use the crazy terms for a situation. You know, say that I have opened myself up to you. If that's going to be the thing, trying to add these, you know, make it think it sounds good. No, you actually are doing something crazy if you falling. You know, I mean, when I was younger, right? And yeah, I know I'm dating myself, you know, but that's okay. Y'all be all right. And so it's this commercial that used to come with this thing. The lady used to be on the floor. She said, "I'm falling and I can't get up." Right. And so it used to help you can push this thing that's on you so somebody can come and help you. You know, like emergency people can come to the house or whatever. Right. And I just think about that thing of falling. You know, I've fallen for you, or I'm smitten, or you know, we try to use all these crazy terminologies, man. Just like me. How about liking me today?
Just like me.
Just like me.
Just like me. You know what I mean? I'm, you know what? I'm feeling you. You know, I like you. You know what I mean? I get that part. You know, and then, but anyway, I'm on my soapbox. Let me get off of that because y'all guys are the guests. Let me get off of that. And so
I totally agree with that. Like, you know, it when you just said it, just sometimes it just certain things just start to make sense in your mind, like because it don't take no effort to fall in love. And then what people don't understand is love too, if you really are sincere, it's work. So it's like what it was easy to get in. And it's just like, yeah, it was easy to get in, but you still have to do things to make the relationship work because it's two imperfect people coming together trying to make it work.
Trying to make it work. And again, I think that's the idea of when we start talking about, I really don't understand where this term potential come from, to be honest with you. I've been trying to research how it got started, to be honest with you. And for the life of me, I can't find it. And I'm a words person, right? I got to know what these words, where they come from, how the usage of it started, and all this type of stuff here. Because I just need to know, right? Because it's like that makes incredibly no sense whatsoever. Somebody keep talking about potential. He got potential, but she got potential. Potential to do what? Be a serial killer? You know what I mean? What? You know, where does that go? You know, everybody got the potential to do something. You don't know what's written for you. Only thing you got to do is put your mind to it and put the work in it, right? Well, that's a whole nother question. But the way that I'm seeing and I'm hearing you sisters say today about this, and Kendra, I know we was, and I might even cut Michelle off, and I apologize about that. And I want to finish hearing what you're saying, Michelle, as well, on this love and potential. And Kendra,
I remember.
Huh?
I say I do it so much to other people. I don't even know this what it's done to me.
Same.
I don't know. No idea what you're talking
about. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't even know. So.
How we get there? It's like, how the heck do we get here? You know what I mean? And it's like, and it's tearing us up. It's really ripping us apart. You know what I mean? Because we're searching for something that really, the reality of something is right there in front of you and you don't want to accept it. You know, and then you go off on this thing of what you feel like, your status is supposed to be, or what the status, not just your personal status, but what the status say a society is supposed to be. And we get it wrong. and we get it, and it's like our community now is really failing behind it. It's really failing behind it, because I don't see this, the divorce rates and the remarriage rates, and I'm not necessarily hung up on people getting married or divorced and getting remarried, but at some point it we have to start really looking at this thing, and what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's when you sent me the text and told me this was going to be that was the subject line. I literally fell out my chair.
Mashallah.
I like, wow. I'm gonna enjoy hearing this one from these two here. 'Cause I listen to y'all podcasts too, so I'll be enjoying y'all podcasts when y'all put them out, right? So, it'd be interesting. I'll be liking it. But I just want to know from a professional standpoint, if we get to love, we get to potential. How do we then refocus love, and how do we eradicate this word potential? What do we replace it with?
Well, I think one, our problem too is we've become a society that is emotion driven.
Okay.
Meaning that um the reality of something doesn't matter. It's about how I feel. Now, how you feel is valid because it's your feelings, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily make it true, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it may be true, but it's not the whole truth.
Right.
Um,
It's not the full truth.
it's
Right.
not
It's
the
just a
whole
sum of the situation.
Yeah, it's part of it. It's
Mm-hmm. Oh
how
yeah, it's a part of it. It's not the whole sum of it. It's a part of it. I'm sorry, I said that wrong.
it's how I'm interpreting what's going on, and how I'm interpreting it may be correct. Like if people, I always say, if outside people looking in can't see at least how you got there, not necessarily agreement, but they can't see how you got there, then it's something faulty in your thinking process. um because other people should be able to see it too. I'm not talking about necessarily the people that's involved, because the people that's involved, sometimes you're heightened by emotions, you're triggered, you're this, you're that, so you can't see outside of that. And it just, and if you think about, like, even with like Shaitan, when it was like, make sure does to Adam, and he was like, no, he's not doing it because I am better than him. He couldn't see past his own internal thing, which made him disobey. And so a lot of times what we're doing is we don't take a step back and say, okay, what am I not seeing in this situation of what's happening right here? Um, and because we are a culture now where it's like, how you feel, how you feel, how you feel, how you feel. So people are like, I'm triggered, it's your fault, you fixed it. And it's like, no, you had the button. That's
Mm-hmm.
your button. You made it accessible to other people because you're not doing the work. And so when we have these
Mm.
whole group of people running
Mm-hmm.
off of feelings all the time, oh, I feel this, oh, I feel that, oh, I feel this, oh, I feel that. That's not acceptable, especially if you have a black heart or a spotted heart, because your heart is can't make good discernment.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because
then
it's corrupt at it's compromised at that point.
it's
Mm-hmm.
compromised. But then you don't also want to go to the complete other side and then intellectualize everything, because then you make things, sometimes you make it just trivial,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't explain other areas that of, because like obviously Shaitan felt a kind of way about having to do that.
Right.
But the reality of the matter
Right.
is,
He intellectualized he was better than.
like, oh, I'm better than him because of this, and this, and he's this, and this, and just made it all about that. And it's like, no, Allah said to do this.
Right.
That was it. And we're not there yet where we can have an issue or a problem and say, okay, let's go back to the Quran and Sunnah. What does they say about this? Let's go. And then not only just doing that, but also sometimes you might have to go to a student of knowledge, because it's things that you just don't know, that you should know, that is influencing that. And that's why we should always be trying to be in classes, always trying to learn, always trying to grow, because a lot of pitfalls that we fall into is literally based because we're ignorant.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. And I would like to add to that, if I could piggyback off of that, and Kendra, you jump in here if you don't mind. Coming to people like yourselves who are professional, who can actually help guide you through that, right? And the information that you may have learned from a student, then I can show you how to then, from this standpoint, how to put that into practice.
Mm-hmm.
Right, or what that looked like, because in certain rights, you are students yourselves in your field. You know what I mean? And so, therefore, as Allah said, ask the people who know. Right, there are things that you guys know that some imams don't even know. You know what I mean? So, it's one of those things that where we then have to look outside of ourselves. I think when you use a thing of shaitan, uh, and I think that's an interesting point when you use that, is that when he intellectualized himself going through Adam and doing this and doing that, he intellectualized and he went within himself versus just saying, you know what, I'm gonna do it because Allah said do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he intellectualized and internalized how he was better.
Because he really was jealous.
Exactly.
When you don't do the internal work, you're not going to get there. You're not going to get to, I'm jealous, that's why I'm acting out.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to say, you're going to try to find rationales and reasons of why what you're feeling is not true, which makes you transgress.
And people get into love and this love and potential the same way. They rationalize themselves right into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why, as she said, it's important to do self work. But something I notice a lot, probably majority of the couples, or even, because I don't see men, but even some of the women that I see that are exploring relationships or wanting to get in a relationship, people love to blame. They love to blame. They love to avoid accountability, self-reflection. Um, and something I tell particularly couples, so it also works when you are trying to explore the idea of marriage and not honing in on just potential, because you need to know what works for you, right? So don't just accept anything. So have a criteria. This is my criteria. And don't go outside of your criteria. I don't mean these crazy high standards. I mean some core values, like, are they practicing? Are they in the masjid? And so I'm not going to accept a brother that comes and says, oh, I plan to take classes. It's my goal to do this. That's fine. Alhamdulillah, may Allah increase you, but that's not the person for me, because I'm not going to hone in on the potential of what he might do. I want him right where he checks some of the important boxes, right? And so that is why it's important to know yourself, know what you want, do the work, go to the classes, so that you feel confident to not just look at the potential. You got to believe that you're actually worth what you want.
Mm-hmm. You said worth
it. Yeah. Some people some people like to avoid that word low worth, right? So there's a time that I can reflect on when I look at my past relationships, it reflects low worth, right? So many people might look at me and say, no, you were very confident. Not to allow that in my life.
Right.
Right? It reflects low worth because you're willing to overlook things because subconsciously you don't think you're worth better.
It's amazing you say that, because I know you just said, and I think probably you and Michelle probably like this. You guys really don't work with men, right? And I think I have the fortune, if you will, to be in a position of working with men and women, right? And the reality of it is that something that you just said here, Kendra, that men too walk around, believe it or not, with an aspect of understanding of low self-worth.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so therefore they stick with situations. And some women say, well, a man will get rid of a woman quick, or he'll move on, he'll do this, he'll do that. Man, I mean, there's no absolutes in anything,
Mhm.
Right.
right? But a good majority of the time, a lot of men will stay in a situation, right? And I guess the numbers are even getting improved now that most divorces are really being initiated by women nowadays, right?
Mhm.
And so many men are stay in a situation not understanding that they are devaluing themselves. When I say devalue, they're not understanding what. And I had to even look at this word that this week here, worth and value, right? And what the worth is what is something that determine their appreciation of the self, right? Versus how much I'm worthy, or how much I earn, or how much I got, or what all these type of things here, right? Where value is more about the usefulness or the importance.
Mhm.
Mm.
And I think a lot of times men forget where their usefulness might be, and they're getting told where their usefulness. They really so more so now where their usefulness might be and their importance might be,
Mhm.
right? And so now we're looking at men who are talking about, and I think this is why this conversation is important, because really men don't understand this whole concept of love and potential. We're really lost in this concept of love and potential. They understand the love part because they fall into the romanticism of things as well, right? We're just a culture that everything that got romanticized, right? Either either you're gonna have a slew of them that you don't care nothing about, or you're gonna have that one that you're going to go crazy about, right? It's kind of that culture that we kind of run into, right? And so then they get told that I got to do everything for this woman. I got to buy gifts, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. This is what love looks like. This is what potential looks like, right? And so then he gets caught up into the thought of thinking that man, it's looking like I'm just feeling like an ATM.
Mhm.
I hear a lot of men say that,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, that's the only thing, that's my worth. I'm just the ATM.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And then they don't know, the potential was he go to thinking them, oh my, all that my was potential for you to be able to take care of you and get nothing out of this,
Mhm.
right? Where's the mutual benefit at some point, right? And I don't know. Sometimes I really don't know what to say to that, because it's one of those things. As a man, you know where he's coming from, but you don't want to allow him to kind of just live in it,
Mhm.
because then it'll get ugly for the next woman that he gets involved with.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? He's going to be a little bit more cold hearted, a little bit more, nonchalant, non caring, and then nobody deserves that.
Yeah.
That makes sense,
It does.
Yeah.
and so you have to kind of keep him open. So then when we start talking about this love and potential, how should, and I ask you sisters this here, how should a man love a woman? What should it be his first movement? We talked about like. How then should he measure himself in moving towards anything else outside of that?
Well, it's gonna look different for different women. So you're gonna have to get to know her, and not assume what what makes her feel loved.
Mhm. But
You know,
what if she's already working from this concept of a warped understanding of love? Then what is he supposed to do with that?
like, they need to go to counseling or something. Like, you understand what I'm? But it's because it's only so much you can do when it comes to a mindset, right? It's almost
Mhm.
like beating a dead horse. You can pour, or let's say a bowl with a bucket with a hole in it.
Right,
You can pour and pour and pour into that bucket, and what's
right,
gonna happen at the end of the day? So it might get full because a tiny little hole, but eventually
It's going to seep out.
Mhm.
it's gonna seep out. So no, that takes some intervention. You can't just keep throwing stuff at something that doesn't appreciate what you gave it in the first place.
Mhm.
Wow. Michelle, for you?
I totally agree with her because I was thinking more so of everybody have their wounds, and like one of the things that for me it was like, oh, I had some abandonment wounds, and I was talking to my ex-husband about it, and he said, I will always reassure you that I'm not going to leave you. I said, that sounds great. I said, I'm just talking to you about it because this is how I'm feeling. I said, but you can't do that. I said, because it's going to be like a well. It's never going to get full. It's never going to help me. I said, I have to work on that within myself. That is not your problem. That's my problem. What we like to do is say, I have this issue. Don't do this. And the reality of it, even I can assist you, but I can't do it because because again, I don't know what's ever going to trigger you, because it may be something that I wouldn't have looked at as abandonment, that your mind interpreted it as abandonment. So then I will have to be hyper vigilant about what's going to trigger you.
Mm.
And that's exhausting.
Oh, it's a very, very, very
So if I do
good
this,
God.
because and a lot of times it's no winning. It's no winning
There's
because
no win in that.
you'll be like, all right, are you thinking about it? Okay, I'm gonna do this because she might be. Then she triggered, or he triggered, and they'll be like, but I really thought this out. You should have did this. But then another time you'll be like, all right, I'm gonna do this because they said that this the last time. And the next thing you know, they'll be like, no, you always getting it all wrong.
Right. The goalposts move on you.
Yeah, but the reality of it is the way you're thinking is warped. So nothing is going to be good enough. Nothing is going to be satisfying enough. And you have to learn how to say, hey, here's my trigger button. How we going to pack this away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not how can you avoid pressing it? Where can I put it
Mhm.
Right.
away? How I need to get rid of my trigger button, not expect you to tiptoe around it.
Right.
We can talk
Or
about
disarm it. Or disarm it. I mean, because the button will probably always be there.
Or
But how
just
did I disarm or deactivate it?
Mhm.
yeah.
And we can talk about it. We can have conversations about it. And sometimes we might put it on the table and be like, this button is tripping. But then you
Yeah.
might be like, all right, it's time for me to, or disarm it or put it away, put it in the box, do something with it. But you can't make it your partner's problems. You can't make it all your friends' problems. You just can't do that. That's not realistic.
Wow. Whoo, man. So, I don't know. I think we've been on here for a minute. So I'm not going to exhaust you sisters out, with more questions, because I'm telling you, I got about 10 more just came to mind just in that conversation itself. Right. And so I want you guys to leave everyone with a parting word,
Mhm.
and then also let them know where they can find you. Okay.
Sure. Go on, Miss Shabazz.
I'm Kendra Kamilah Shabazz. If you want to Google me, Kendra Gainey. I am located at Positive Reset Mental Health Clinic here in New Jersey, but I am a fully virtual therapist for now. So just look for me. I have some future endeavors that, I plan on doing, but I'll keep that, you know, quiet until Allah permits.
So,
So I just want to encourage everyone to value yourself, value other Muslims, have sincerity, be kind, be sweet, alhamdulillah, and just don't bother people, if you don't have good intentions.
don't bother people. I
Don't
like that.
bother people. I love it. Don't bother people.
Don't bother people. I ain't gonna tell you a lie. Out of this session here, out of this episode here, I have came up with the most quotes. All right, we have came up with the most quotes out of any session I have had. So this is beautiful. Don't bother people.
And if you need help, go back to the 6 rights of a Muslim. Does it fall into these lines? And you will be good to go.
Mm.
And so I am Michelle Renee Davis. I'm sorry, I'm just getting over a cold, and I just have these coughing fits sometimes.
You okay? And we not editing it out either. So it's all right.
You can find me at WFMH Talk.
Well, okay, we'll let you get right first, though.
Yeah. You can find me at WFMMH.com, and you can schedule an appointment through the portal. I do accept insurance. I'm licensed in Delaware and Pennsylvania. And I am everyone's favorite therapist. I like to tell people that if you are ready to heal and you're on your healing journey, I absolutely can help you in that way. I cannot help anyone who wants to be on someone else's healing journey to fix them. So, because I find that to be true too. A lot of times people want us to fix other people, and I can't fix other people. The only person I can fix is the person right in front of me, and the only person that you can fix is the person that you are into growing and healing and developing. And so I will, and I wish that for everyone to go on a healing journey. I don't believe in an ending, but I do believe that it's a journey that everyone has the capacity, not potential, the capacity to do.
That's the word. That we found the word. You just gave us a word. Love and capacity, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, they have the capacity to do it, but are they going to do it? And that's just the reality of it. And I just hope that people will just give love and grace. That's what I would hope for people.
All right. So this has been another wonderful episode of the Get Made podcast. I really love to thank my guest, Miss Michelle Renee Davis, everyone's favorite therapist, Miss Kendra Kamilah Shabazz, for licensed marriage and family therapist, for their expertise and lending their expertise in their professions. I got a little treat for everybody coming up in June. I know Michelle's going to be there. I'm see if I can get Kendra there to be as well with the Muslim Wellness Summit in Baltimore. I just throw that out there on you, right? Kick Kendra, so don't get mad. But anyway, I'm put on the spot, y'all. But anyway, on June 20th, 21st in Baltimore at the Assembly Room, we got some great speakers and great guests. We're going to make sure that we bring our spiritual leaders, our students of knowledge, and our professionals, our clinical professionals together, so we can make sure that we have the opportunity to make our lives better, and we get the tools to do so. So nobody can say that it's not out there, and nobody can say that we are not bringing it to you. All right. If you want to bring the people to the mountain, now we're going to bring the mountain to the people. All right. So, inshallah. So, with that, of course, the Get Made podcast is always aired every Monday at 7 p.m. Follow me on TikTok at the Hassan Clay Experience. Also on Instagram at the Hassan Clay _experience. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel at the Get Made podcast on YouTube. Also, check out my book. It's on Amazon. Taming the Storm, Understanding and Overcoming High Conflict Personalities for a Peaceful Life. It's on sale now, ebook and in paperback. I'm looking to actually put it out on audio book as well. But please continue to support, and thank you for all that you guys do, and continue to stay in, and we're going to see you next week.
Inshallah.
Wow.
All right.